Dun, 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 dun. Bum, 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 bum. Da, da. Yeah, baby. Let me get situated. Raise your hand if you thought that I was not gonna continue on my Berserk journey. You'd be a little wild. Raise your hand. I want to see all the deniers out there. Okay, I know there's a couple of you. I can see you through the screen. I'm looking at you. Here we go. This is the big one. I thought in the last couple of videos that I read, the last 3 volumes, that we were going to get into the crazy nitty-gritty of the Berserk world, but apparently this is the big one. This is the one that shows some of the most astonishing things. Now, I do want to clarify some things before we get into this. First things first. Some great feedback that I got from people where they don't know exactly what chapters I'm on, because this is a very all-encompassing deluxe volume. So I'm going to tell you exactly what chapters are going to be in here. So the contents of this are as follows. Sparks from a Sword Tip. Infiltrating Windham, Chapter 1. Infiltrating Windham, Chapter 2. Festival's Eve, Chapter 1. Festival's Eve, Chapter 2. Thousand-Year Fiefdom. Reunion in the Abyss. A Way Through, Bakiraka Chapter 1, Bakiraka Chapter 2, Flower of the Stone Castle, and looky. Can we see it? Can we see it? Huh. My little nose poking out is probably doing no justice. When I opened this up, when I received all of my volumes, if you haven't checked out the video, breaking news, I have almost every single volume aside from volume 14 of the deluxe edition. So I got them all, baby. I got them all. I already opened up to the front page. I'll show it to you, but I'm going to censor it, okay? You know what's coming. Look at that. Hello. So that's what I want to get out of the way. I also want to say, before we get into this, I do not know what's going to happen. I know that something astonishing is going to happen. There have been little breadcrumbs left in the comments, so I do know that maybe there's something that's happening. And if these breadcrumbs are correct, this is going to be really shocking and horrible. So I'm sure that this smile is going to be wiped right off my face by the end of this video. So we're going to have... This is going to be a nice long one, okay? I'm going to give you all of my reactions. So let's get into it. Hello, you filthy animals. It is the same day, but I threw on a sweater and a little bit of a different red lip because we are talking about the first parts of the book. No, let me show you my progress. This doesn't really work that well. I'm not using the proper ribbon bookmark as I should, but I'm using rather the paper that came with this Berserk edition to show you where I am. I figured we would just start to kind of like settle and show the beginning to kind of set down the foundation of where we are, because I know if you're not following the actual stream of videos that I've made, you might just want to know where we are in this world. So we started with Sparks from a Sword Tip, and immediately in this you're opening to Casca and Guts, talking about the fact that they were basically each other's first intimate encounter and how their history framed the way that they interact with other people, why they're afraid for touch. They both have this horrific history of abuse in their lives. That's an understatement. This is just really showing kind of like the fundamental bond that they have between the two of them. There is a really great moment in this. As we know, within the Berserk universe, a lot of this world is driven by flashbacks, and I think one of my favorite little flashbacks that I've seen so far is it's showing how Guts got his sword, his massive sword, how he had this blacksmith in his life, and how he was able to construct basically the behemoth sword that Guts was to be known for carrying. What I saw in this, almost maybe this sword is an easier justification for Guts to say that the sword is doing what he's doing. There is a man who is horribly conflicted about what he is doing and the lives that he's taking. And maybe this sword is a little bit of a shield. I mean, it's not obviously, but metaphorically, it's a shield to protect his actual psyche from the pain that he's inflicting, because he's just a damaged individual trying to go about life in a somewhat normal sense in a world that's constantly pushing against him. So I really loved that flashback scene. There's also probably one of my favorite lines, romantic lines in this. Guts says one of the most attractive things ever. But at any rate, right now, I can't have you enough. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Okay. He's cool with it. He's got style. He has grace. He knows how to make casca. I'm not even going to say that. Okay. The next chapter that we're going to talk about is Entering Windham. So this is, I'm assuming, where the storyline of this whole volume is going to go. They are essentially trying to rescue Griffith from the hell that he has found himself in. If you don't remember, in the previous volumes, Griffith was found to be having an affair, let's say, with Princess Charlotte, and he has been banished to the depths of this prison. He's been down there for a year. This is the first time that you, in this particular volume, are entering into Griffith's headspace. You start to see this haziness, this emotional pull that he feels about Guts. Why does he this is the only thing that's keeping him going in this life, is just fantasizing about Guts. What is this polarizing pull that he feels? It's just, that is what keeps him going for a year. Casca and Guts are reunited with the Band of the Hawk, and the Band of the Hawk starts to kind of see that maybe there is a little bit of a romance between Casca and Guts. Infiltrating Windham, Chapter 2. Chapter 2. I didn't realize I'm going to say something a little bit crazy, but I think that Princess Charlotte, when my hair is up, maybe she looks a little bit like me. Is that the right character to say that you look like? Because I don't particularly like her actual character, but I think I opened up that page and I said, is that me? Am I in this? So this is where Princess Charlotte re-enters into the world. The Band of the Hawk has made it to the castle, and they say, oh, we have an insider in the castle who's going to let us in, tell us how to get in. And wouldn't you know, it is Princess Charlotte, the Princess Charlotte who got Griffith into trouble. I mean, she didn't really get him into trouble, but it was because of her that Griffith is suffering down in these depths of hell. And it's also kind of in this moment that you start to see a little bit of jealousy between Casca and this confusion, because obviously she feels this immense attraction and this kinship with Guts, but there is also this intense jealousy that she feels. She also has this really deep connection with Griffith. Also interesting to look at the extent to how much Princess Charlotte is devoted to Griffith. Again, you're really pounding down this fact that Griffith has this persuasion power over people. Again, you have to keep on recalling he's been down there for a year, and still Princess Charlotte is obsessed with him. I mean, she doesn't really get out much, okay? And then let's get into Festival's Eve, Chapter 1. This is where things start to take a turn. And in Festival's Eve, Chapter 1, you start to see everything going into motion. Princess Charlotte, she wants to help. And one of my favorite things that I've noticed about Miura's drawing is that he's able to really establish a flashback, like so beautifully. I don't know what it is. There's a particular flashback. You might forget about the horrors of Princess Charlotte's childhood, but he drew her father doing something, and it just made my face go, ooh. And it just made me remember how violently gross her father was. And I think that that is a really amazing trait that Miura has as a storyteller, is just having these flashback images make you go, ooh, oh yeah, I remember what that felt like. Ugh. So to get back into the storyline, Charlotte is a willing participant in wanting to help find Griffith, or at least release Griffith. They know where Griffith is. He's in that deep, dark cellar. Deep, dark cellar. And she is kind of like willing to be a hostage. There's like really funny moments in this as well. There's a picture of Guts, and he's kind of like, let's keep going. And there's, in the captions, it says affective irritation. Also, you get to really see how immature Princess Charlotte is. I mean, she has an absolute just breakdown, okay? Child in a grocery store type of breakdown. Like, would have been taking Cheerios and throwing them at their mom type of breakdown. And I think that is maybe to show just how bad of a decision it might be to take Princess Charlotte down with them it's maybe not that good of an idea at all. Like, she really is this precarious character, this person who, if they take her, there's going to be seen as kidnapping, and they're always going to be seen as a criminal. And if they don't take her, she freaks out and makes a scene. And it's just, I think, really foreshadowing that she might be the ultimate problem down there. I'm just assuming that. Could be wrong. All right. And then the second one, Festival's Eve, Chapter 2. Yeah, this I think is some of my favorite artwork so far in this. And this is just showing the other half of the Band of Hawk. They're waiting for Casca and Guts and the rest of them to return, nursing the health of one of the fighters. And you start to see the bad guys show up. And wow, the artistry in this is unbelievable. Really just establishing the underboiling, the undercurrent of just how bad things are gonna get. I really just love the contrast between the darkness and the light in Miura's drawing. When there's a bad character, you just see how dark they are, and it's so visually nodding in a direction, and I think it's just so good. And then we have the 1,000-Year Fiefdom, and this is just them kind of going down into the depths of the castle. And this also really shows that Princess Charlotte has absolutely no idea what's going on in the world. She doesn't know or has never been down there. I mean, why would she be down there, right? She has no idea what's down there, even though she essentially lives in this castle her whole life. Then you have the History of Midland, which shows the history of that particular castle, the foreboding, the history of darkness surrounding that, really setting the scene. And then, of course, I stopped because I think it's a perfect place to stop. And my inkling is that this is where it's about to get crazy. We've gotten to reunion in the Abyss, which is Griffith donning a very distinct headpiece that we have seen before. We have not seen him in this storyline with the headpiece, but Volume 1, we know that he wears it. So that's where I had to stop myself at. I wanted to keep going. This, I think, is some of my favorite storytelling that I've encountered in the Berserk volume so far. This is really, really like enticing for me to continue. So I'm going to read that and I'll come back with some notes. And yeah, this is going to be hopefully a nice long video for you because I'm really enjoying doing a breakdown, and I hope it's easier for you to follow along with if you just go chapter by chapter by chapter. Tell me so far what your favorite chapter is, like what one really sticks out to you, because I think that would be a fun thing to reference back. So let's keep going. Okay, so I'm starting to carry my little vlogging camera around because I know that some people wanted some live reactions, and I feel that things are getting progressively darker. So rest assured, if things get really dark, I will put this on and you'll get my actual reaction to whatever heinous activities are coming up next. Let's do it. Hello. Welcome, you filthy animals, again. You wouldn't believe it, but this is a different day, though I am kind of rocking the same hairstyle. We are moving forward, though there might be 2 check-ins today, because I have realized something about this that we'll get into in a little bit, and I'm just a little silly girl who doesn't really understand how things work. We'll get into what I mean in a little bit. Let's talk about where we are. Oh, I have been reading. Yesterday, I predicted that we were going to start getting into some really dark stuff. So as you saw earlier, I have enacted the Anna reaction cam, because I had a couple of people in the comments wish to see me at my absolute misery when I experience whatever is going to happen in this. And I've started to feel that. And we'll get into when that was. And I'll show you what I felt like, okay? So we start, I have my notes here. I've implemented notes as well. Isn't that crazy? I'm taking this so seriously. We started with the reunion, the Abyss, which sees how decimated, emaciated, and absolutely destroyed Griffith is. His tendons have been severed, his tongue has been cut, and he has just been so stripped of any humanity. Like there's nothing left in him that makes you think, oh yeah, that's a human. No, 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 no. And you are introduced to the keeper, I guess you could say, the torturer, the guy who has been doing all of this gleefully, just deconstructing Griffith as a human. Again, I want to talk about Miura's artwork and his effectiveness in being able to convey characters. He has this character have like a lisp, and you can just see how kind of mutilated his mouth is, and it just adds to the overall discomfort in experiencing that scene, and just the happiness that this keeper feels with the destruction that he's inflicted is just so, that was like the first time really in this that I recoiled a little bit. I used my reaction cam during that. So you start to see just really what Griffith has gone through. He quite literally cannot speak to the rest of the group because he has had his tongue removed. And it's during all of this that you learn that the keeper has notified the guards, and of course now the Band of the Hawk is surrounded. You wouldn't think it would be that easy, would you? No, 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 no. It's never that easy. And then of course the next chapter is a way through. This is an epic battle, which we haven't really seen too much in these particular chapters, which I actually think I like. I think one of the things that wasn't so huge for me in the last couple of volumes was it was a lot of like epic battles, and I'm much more of a story enjoyer. I like having a cohesive storyline. You're even starting to see a lot of the strengths of particular characters in the Band of the Hawk, which we'll get into in a little bit. So this was like the epic fight scene, which really I think shows the strength of Miura's drawings. It really is amazing to me how he's able to duplicate all of these soldiers and show how they're rushing towards Guts or they're rushing towards the Band of the Hawk, and it feels like every single one of them has been carefully designed, and I think that's so cool. But the epic fights aren't really my thing. So I'm happy that there was only like one of them so far. But what's fun in this is that it's really cemented that Guts is the 100-man killer. I think that's him, how his name precedes him and how everybody knows who he is. And I thought that was just kind of a fun little beep, a little oop. Here we are. He's still doing it. And then I'm going to combine Bakikara Chapter 1 and Bakikara Chapter 2 because I think they do kind of go hand in hand. This is a group of highly trained assassins summoned by the king to get Griffith, specifically Griffith and the Band of the Hawk, to make sure that they leave the princess completely unscathed. It's also really interesting for me. I talked in the last check-in how we're kind of recall an image of the king and how nasty he is, and to see him now, he looks so much older and degraded. And I think that that's a really great part of Miura's storytelling, is being able to show just how when something's weighing on you, how it affects your outer being, and just showing the progression of age for a particular person. It's only been about a year and you can just see how withered he's become, and I thought that was just kind of a fun little call out. Of course, the Bakiara, they ambush the Band of the Hawk as they're trying to get out, and with this ambush you really show again how devoted Princess Charlotte is to Griffith, as one of them is shooting a blow dart with a poison arrow at Griffith. Princess Charlotte steps in front, and of course she is shot. Now, the Bakiara, in the second chapter, they propose an exchange. They say, we have the only antidote. Don't you want to save Princess Charlotte? We'll spare you. And Band of the Hawk, being the good guys in this scenario, they of course pass over Princess Charlotte, and Bakiara, they say, no, we're bad. We're going to be bad, and we're going to go back on our word, and they continue to ambush the Band of the Hawk. When I was talking about the particular members in the Band of the Hawk starting to be highlighted for their abilities, this is where it really starts to shine. I'm sorry, judo? What a character. Probably coming up as one of my favorite characters. I love judo. What a smart thinker. Kind of overlooked because I think I like Casca. I love me some Casca, okay? Great character. But I love judo. Judo's so smart, so quick thinking, saves the day against the Bakiara. Love that. And then you also start to see Pippin, who is a really central, large figure in the Band of the Hawk. But he, again, has a moment to highlight how significant he is within the group and how intelligent he really is. And he is able to further save the Band of the Hawk, after one of the Bakiaras throws like a massive firebomb at them. And this is where I made a mistake. Okay, this is where I made a little mistake. Remember when I opened up the book and I said, oh, these are the chapters. These are the... This is what all of this is going to encompass. Well, I was wrong, because this is broken down into quite a few different chapters, okay? Oopsies. So where we left off in the last section was the Flower of the Stone Castle, and you are introduced to the Black Dogs, which are the nasty knights. The other knights don't even want to call them knights because they're so nasty. And the king employs them to take Griffith's head. And that's where we leave off. And then we are entering into the second section. And that, as I will read it out, the contents are Devil Dogs Chapter 1, Devil Dogs Chapter 2, Devil Dogs Chapter 3, Devil Dogs Chapter 4, Roar of the Wild Beast, Forest of Tragedy, Mortal Kombat, Heyo, Finish Him. Chapter 1, Mortal Kombat, Fatality. Chapter 2, Armored to the Heart, the Flying One, and the Immortal once again. So that is what we're going to get into, and I hope that will get us about halfway through. I will check back in once that's finished. It might be the same day, who knows? Or maybe I'll just throw a different shirt on so it feels like we're in this different day. Get ready for some reaction cam. This is really good. I'm really, really enjoying this. Do you see? Hello. Same day. We're checking in, okay? I could not be stopped. I've just kept trucking on in such momentum that I'm even surprised. I had to throw on my Lucky Gray headband because I feel like we're about to get into it. We're about to get into some... Let's recap the last few chapters that we read, okay? We were introduced to the Black Dogs, the Devil Dogs chapters. I'm going to put these all together because I think there's about 4 of them, and they just accelerated. The way that I was reading them was like... we gotta keep going. Okay, so Wyald, you start to see the history of Wyald, who is the captain of the Black Dogs, and he's just like he's not even a human. Nobody really knows what he is. Even the king in the flashback introduction to Wyald is intimidated by him. He doesn't know who he is, and he's this criminal, and he creates this group of knights that's just unstoppable and feared throughout all of Midland. And you're really introduced to the plundering and the violating that these Black Dogs are capable of. The Band of the Hawk are trying to run away, and they have created this trail with like a set of booby traps, and they start to see that the Black Dogs, Wyald in particular, really is impervious to these booby traps that they have set up. All of these Devil Dog chapters is just this lead up to an eventual fight, massive epic battle that would be happening between the Band of the Hawk, specifically Guts, and Wyald. I don't like this Wyald guy, okay? I just finished Devil Dogs 1, and I don't like where this is going. Now, there is constantly a mention through Wyald of this festival and this eclipse, okay? I'll be honest, when I see comments about eclipse in my YouTube videos, I have no idea what that means. I really have done like no research aside from Kento Miura, his history into Berserk. That's about it. I thought eclipse was a whole set of chapters. I didn't realize that it's one particular chapter. And baby, spoiler alert, I know it's coming up. Okay, I know it's coming up. It's all making sense to me now. Roar of the Wild Beast is when you really start to see just the intentions of Wyald and how much of a non-human he really is. It seems like there's powerful forces outside of the realm of human ability behind him. And you figure that out because he basically anamorphs into this massive humanoid beast extension with eyes and heads popping out, and it's honestly pretty epic. This isn't gnarly, but I just gotta say, what the hell? Oh wow, that he's like anamorphed into the wildest beast. Damn, that can't be good. And then of course, in the Forest of Tragedy, Casca is yet again ripped from battle and almost horrifically abused, just horrifically abused. You fear the absolute worst for what is going to happen to Casca, and Guts, being the man that he is, saves her. Who says that chivalry is dead? He does it in such an epic way, just slicing through the one source of pleasure that Wyald has. It's such a provocative and metaphorical moment in all of this. He's really just saving his lady and really just severing the Wyald's ability to please himself, which is like one of the most important things in his life. Mortal combats. I'll talk about those 2 chapters very briefly together. This is the face-off between Guts and Wyald. It's gory. Guts, again, like in all of his battles, you don't think he's gonna make it. He's pushing back. He's falling. He's taking a beating. Everybody in the Band of the Hawk that is watching, okay, they're all just sitting there watching, letting him take the lead. They say there's no way he's gonna make it. There's no way any human could experience that and survive. And Guts, being the capable and strong fighter that he is, of course, he kinda defeats him. He finds the source of Wyald's power, which is his eyeball, and he slices through that, and that kind of destables him. And then Guts is able to really just shink, and kill him. And then we move on to Armor to the Heart, which shows a scene between Princess Charlotte and Anna, her housemaid. Princess Charlotte is under the belief that her father has backed off on Griffith, and of course he hasn't. And this is where you start to see a character that we have encountered before. Nosferatu Zodd, anybody? The ultimate competitor for Guts's power. The one person that Guts has, well, the one thing, I should say, that Guts has gone against, that he has been unable to beat. You see him kind of flying in the sky. And this is where it starts to really tumble and form into where I think the story is going. There's also this moment of convalescence between Guts and Griffith, really, again, reaffirming how devoted to Griffith Guts is. I'm starting to think that the choice to make Griffith unable to talk is such a choice because he wouldn't be able to lie out of this. Griffith's allegiance to the Band of the Hawk might not be what it is. We have our friend the Behelit, which we all know and don't love. That is what Wyald is ultimately looking for. He says he is the 5th one, and this all makes sense if you go back to the first volume. This is how everything started to form, how Griffith became the anti that we know and understand him as today. The immortal, once again, Nosferatu Zodd shows his face. Guts is just shocked that he's there. They really show Griffith for who he is, stripped down, kind of this feeble character. And Nosferatu Zodd kills Wyald in this epic fit of just unsatisfaction. And you see who Wyald was before this power overtook him. It's really interesting because I'm starting to see the themes of this particular volume are just so much how intoxicating power can be for people, how intoxicating the promise of riches, wealth, maybe your family surviving, and just the exchange that people are willing to make in order to sustain their life, especially with the reveal that Wyald was just this decrepit old man. It's very interesting to me to see the stance that is being taken. And yeah, I know for a fact now that the chapter that everybody talks about, and I've been trying so hard not to skip ahead, is coming up. Okay, we have Eclipse. Ooh. Let me show you. Hold on. In these upcoming chapters, we have Requiem of the Wind, The Warriors of Light, Back Alley Boy, which, okay, interesting name. Eclipse, The Promised Time, Advent, The Inhuman Host, The Castle, Parting, and The Feast. And I think that is going to round out this volume. Buckle up. Yeah. 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 Let's all hold hands. That was a wild last section. Let me tell you, baby, okay? That was a wild last section. And spoiler alert, probably my favorite part of Berserk that I have read to this day, all right, in my very aged and wisdom-filled experience with Berserk. Hands down, those last 10 chapters were phenomenal. Phenomenal. Heartbreaking, but say it with me. Phenomenal. I have been breaking down this video based on the chapters, but you know what, as I was editing it, I was like, you know, I don't really think I like it that much. So we're just going to talk about the last section as a bulk experience because, to be also totally transparent, I read that baby at like Mach speed, okay? I was flipping. I was like, get me to it. Get me to what's going to happen. I could not stop once I had started, and that is the sign of a successful last chapter. Okay, so to reiterate again, we're going through Requiem of the Wind, The Warriors of Twilight, Back Alley Boy, Eclipse, The Promised Time, Advent, The Inhuman Host, The Castle Parting, and The Feast. So, where we left off was doo-doo was starting to hit the fan. Doo-doo was starting to hit the fan. Wyald had been defeated, and now there was this very ominous and looming feeling that something had shifted. Wyald was talking about the eclipse, the festival. What is this? What's going on? There's also, as we followed up after this defeat of Wyald, there is a little bit of movement within the Band of the Hawk. There's this slight moment of brevity, and I also want to call out, again, when I was talking about the difference between darkness and light in the drawing, every time that the Band of the Hawk is mentioned in this or shown, it's very, very light, and there's just a little blip of that in these last couple of chapters because everything gets dark real quick. So there's this confusion as to whether or not Guts will stay with the Band of the Hawk, and there's really the most important decision to be made is for Casca if she is going to stay with Guts. Take me with you. That's what she said. She said, you would take me with you. That was the big conflict during the fight when Guts was going up against Wyald. She was very upset that he was fighting and making that choice. But at the same time, she's having these incredibly conflicting feelings about whether or not she should stay with Griffith, which is what is being explored in the next couple of pages. Oh my goodness. Also, probably one of my favorite quotes in this. Only the wind announced the end of the fight. Okay, now listen, there can be moments in this where I think the writing is a little bit silly, especially when there's internal monologues going on during a fight. Like, wow, this guy's so strong. I can't believe he's beating me. But then Miura comes out and drops a banger like that. A Robert Frost, Walt Whitman sort of poetic line. Hello. Also, The Warriors of the Twilight. Sister, that is one of my favorite drawings that I've seen in this. I love it. So Casca is taking care of a Griffith, and she's in this moment of indecision. Like, do I stay with him? What do? I don't know what to do. And in this moment, Griffith kind of comes after her, really again showing his dominance as the keeper, the controller of her, really not letting her be able to live a life on her own, just showing that power that he still has, even if he is incredibly incapable as an individual, just torn from the inside out, basically. And this is where things just excel at rapid speeds. Griffith has a moment of pure adrenaline, I guess is the only way to explain it. And he lunges the wagon with him and bounds out. Guts is chasing after him, and it's in this moment he's flung from the wagon and he falls. Almost like, I feel like he's trying to like himself, because he maybe knows what's happening. Maybe he knows that the culmination of events are about to switch. And I think subconsciously, maybe he's trying to, because there's a little morsel of empathy for his friends who, spoiler alert, are about to get annihilated. It's also in that moment that the Crimson Behelit says, I'm here, and I'm about to stir it up. And right before everything is about to just absolutely ascend into madness. There's this weird fugue state, hazy recollection or a dream where Griffith is with this woman and they have a baby named Guts. I don't think that's an actual memory. I think it's more of a fugue manifestation of his true passions. He could make this choice to either live a normal life with a lover and have a child, but Guts is like the child, or he's about to divide off his path and go and cause absolute mayhem to achieve his dream. Say it with me again. Achieve his dream. So, of course, the Behelit makes an appearance, and this is when things go into full volume with the eclipse. Now, going forward, I just want to take a moment to talk about the artwork in this particular section. Artwork in this is so stunning and advanced. In my opinion, it is museum quality. These should be hung up somewhere. The way that they are able to convey what is going on, the immense darkness that is all enveloping for the Band of the Hawk, the immense darkness that is coming over Griffith, you can't help but really marvel at it, honestly. I have typophobia, where you get disgusted by holes. So the Skull Mountain is not doing it for me, okay? But in the midst of all this turmoil beginning, we do get a little reminder that our friend Puck is here. Puck is here! So this is, I guess, Puck's origin stories. There's also this little story of a boy, which I imagine is going to be what brings us into volume 5. And Puck is kind of introduced as his protector, as Puck always is. I think Judo and Puck are now my 2 favorite characters in this. Love Casca still. Love you. Even slightly intrigued by Griffith. Is that bad to say? Don't come for me. I don't love a bad boy, okay? I don't love an evil boy, because that's an evil boy. But I can appreciate the contrast that he brings. Anyway, I digress a million times over because I'm super hyped to talk about this. Essentially, when the Crimson Behelit is unveiled, the Guardians show themselves. At this point, you have 4 of them. You're still kind of ambivalent to whether or not Griffith is actually going to do what you think he's going to do. So essentially, the Guardians say that in order to basically reach fulfillment, you have to say sacrifice, sacrifice, and you will sacrifice all of your friends. And you still are wrestling with this idea, well, maybe it's forced upon him. Maybe his hand is forced. Maybe he has to do this. But through these amazing sequences of flashbacks through his childhood, the boy in the alley, you start to see that this is something that has been instilled in him from the very young age, that he is willing to quite literally trample on dead bodies of his friends to get to that castle. What a profound way to establish who Griffith truly is. It's always been in him. This fight for power, this dream, these things that keep on coming up continually in this story, and they're aligned with Griffith because that's what he needs, that's what he wants, that's what he does. The last couple of pages of this are just so honestly unbelievable. Come on now. Come on now. And then you get the iconic Griffith scream, which I imagine is where that is fully established. And then, of course, you have one of what I think the most iconic drawings that I've come across, really just stops you in your tracks, is when Griffith says, out of the thousands of comrades and tens of thousands of enemies, you're the only one. You're the only one who made me forget my dream. Oh, and that's just where it establishes just truly who Griffith is. And it's so great. It's so great. And he says, sacrifice, sacrifice. It has been determined. And all mayhem breaks loose, leading us into volume 5. I can't even imagine what's going to happen there. So, guys, my full feelings on this are that this is definitely the best storytelling. I think the best art. When I first started this journey, so many people said in volume 1, the art is not what it will eventually become. And I think that that 100% rings true. The artwork is so intricate and powerful. You know, everybody kept on saying this is going to be such a sad and shocking volume. And it is. But the way that I see it, there's a weird beauty in what happens in the end. There's a weird unveiling that happens in the end. And I think the reason that I see it almost as beautiful is because Miura made such a strong decision in making Griffith this charismatic and adored leader, and then flipping the switch and making him so distasteful and abhorrent, and really just showing that Guts till the very end was committed to him. There's a weird beauty in that, because I think it's truly establishing Guts as this, not even an anti-hero, truly a hero, somebody who, regardless of whatever troubled past he has, regardless of whatever pain he's inflicted on other people, he truly knew what love and admiration felt like, and that was ripped from him. So magnificent to look at. Also, this is the origin of his black sacrifice. I forgot to say. I forget that that was a huge part of what happened to him during this eclipse. I'll tell you what, it's going to make me feel a little different when there's an eclipse. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to say, what do you mean there's an eclipse? I think I still haven't seen the worst of it, because while that was bad and while there were moments that I was like, ugh, that's gross, I didn't feel really knocked out. As horrible as it sounds, it felt like it was a necessary thing that had to happen to propel the story further. Devastating, so sad. I don't want to know who ends up getting killed and who ends up staying alive. I really loved this volume, hands down the most. Hands down. I mean, you all predicted it. You knew it, okay? You knew it. So I'm just being a follower, I guess. Let me know if you like this format of it being a little bit longer, if you want me to talk about particular chapters as I did in the beginning part of this video, or if you like it just more open structured, like this last part where my emotions just got the best of me, because it'll help me make this a much better experience for you. I just want to know what you like. Volume 5 will be here sooner than later. I promise you on that. Sorry that it took a little while on this one. I had other obligations. I'm so sorry. Anyway, you guys are wonderful. You're fabulous. Thank you so much for being here. I will see you in the next one.